Welcome back. Welcome in. This is Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com. This is a Paramount podcast. I am Mike Casazza here on a Monday morning to dip into the mailbag here with Chris Anderson, take some subscriber questions off the VIP side, answer them for the world. Chris, the mood is good. People are happy. All the problems are solved. Just took an open week and everything's perfect again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the football product is good. I don't know if the fans are quite happy. There's discontent that there's not enough people happy, at least on our message board. So if you're not happy enough, that's now making me not happy, or somebody like another fan happy. So thus is fandom in the world of college football 2024.
Neil Brown later this afternoon, players, assistant coaches, they'll have a lot of answers from questions that road game did not get to ask. So we'll get to fire off some thoughts in our head that are still there after Saturday's win. Not for us though, Chris. We're here for the people. So what do you
That's
say we get
right.
into it? Take some questions, post it on the VIP board. If you're interested, go sign up now, 30% off or full price with the Paramount Plus subscription, which comes in pretty handy this time of year too. If you're not a Sunday ticket person, you can watch some NFL games, all that stuff. Choice is yours, but either way you win. Chris, what do you say we get started?
Let's do it. We have a few different versions of this question here, but I like the way this one was phrased. From WVU Engineer '01. Did the defense show legitimate signs of improvement in Stillwater, or is Alan Bowman this year's Phil Jerkovich?
Yeah, that's the worry, the latter part, right?
Yeah.
Um, Not a lot of missed tackles. Got home on some small pressure, even some three-man rushes, which means the coverage behind that was good. Now, can Alan Bowman see that? Does he want to go there? I don't know. And maybe we even have the answers a little bit. That's a guy that can't beat you, though. And a lesser version of West Virginia's defense gives up yardage and points and save one pass that was in between three defenders. It was kind of a risky pass, all things considered. Really nothing dangerous in there during the real like formative part of the game where the good players were in and the game plan was intact. So Bowman has something to do with it, but you let Alan Bowman be exactly who Alan Bowman is supposed to be, or maybe you made Alan Bowman be who he's supposed to be, and that certainly counts. The Jerkovich comparison is good. I wonder if Bowman will be playing tight end in a couple of weeks. We'll see because that team, I mean, I think Mike Gundy was fighting making a quarterback change because then he has to do it during the open week, and he did, and that still might be what's best for the offense, but that's a bad situation there for sure on offense.
Yeah, he certainly seemed hesitant to kind of admit that there were things very wrong with this team, especially going back to his comments from a couple games ago where he said there was only a handful of plays that were bad in this blowout loss. And there were more than a handful of plays that were bad in this blowout loss to West Virginia. And that's a couple in a row for them. So yeah, there has to be like with a lot with everything, and especially in the world of college football and all sports, it's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Like there are reasons to think that maybe West Virginia is better or they've improved and changed some things. But there are certainly reasons to believe that Oklahoma State team is just bad. And that quarterback, or at least that quarterback play and that offensive line play is just bad. So it's a mix of both. I don't know. I guess this weekend, I'll jump the gun on this one, Mike. Is this the weekend where if West Virginia can be adequate on defense, especially in pass defense, is this where you can say, hey, maybe they have fixed this because they were fine-ish against Kansas and Jalen Daniels, but we've detailed the struggles of Jalen Daniels. And then they were great against Oklahoma State. But you and I talked about it on the pregame pod. But looking at a lot of the stats, the bad stats for quarterbacks, the worst was Jalen Daniels, and the second worst was Alan Bowman. So they faced maybe the two worst quarterbacks or the two quarterbacks who are playing the worst right now in the Big 12. Is Iowa State and Rocco Beck good enough to say, hey, that's the difference? If West Virginia can do well against this team, now I believe the defense is better.
I'm not sure. Iowa State's offense has been really bad, except Saturday night against Baylor. Like I haven't liked anything I've seen there, and like the players that they thought were going to be good players have taken time this year. Like Abu Sama is their third running back right now, Chris. He was supposed to be like the big revelation from last year. They do run the heck out of the ball. They're over 220 yards last 3 games, so it might not even be a Beck game. I think the answer, like the maybe big picture answer to this question, Chris, is that I'm just looking in the Big 12 right now. Iowa State is eighth in passing. Kansas State is 15th in passing. UCF is 12th in passing. Baylor is 10th in passing. Arizona is 6th in passing. Texas Tech is 5th in passing. Cincinnati is 3rd. So they have road games against 3 and 5 in the Big 12 so far in passing. Sorsby's looked pretty good. Morton seemed like he's starting to be healthy and has his act together. He's actually had a couple nice games in a row. In between and around that, there's not a whole lot of great passing offenses left, Chris. So good enough might be good.
I like it. GA Mountaineer asks, as a two-part question, let's stick with the first part here because it's related. Why should I temper my expectations after this performance? And the easy answer is Oklahoma State sucks. What's a more nuanced answer, Mike? I'll cede the floor to you here for the nuance. Go ahead.
The third quarter wasn't great. If you're really looking for like your killer instinct there, that league grows and they probably finish in the 40s. And then small picture, big picture again, the reserves that they want to play did not play well. Just didn't. I wouldn't put that in the offensive line for sure because they got in a very small amount at the end. I wouldn't put that on Dior Hubbard and Jalen Anderson, although Anderson darn near broke a touchdown too. The receivers just didn't make you think like, oh, there we go. There's a second line of receivers. Like I just don't remember. I remember seeing them, but like Jaden Bray and Rick Darius Farmer, that wasn't a great encore for Rodney Gallagher. The other part of that though, Chris, is they didn't throw the ball. So I'm tempering my tempered expectations there too. There just weren't a lot of passes. And I just pretty much everybody who played, including Bray, including Fox, really, really blocked well. I mean, even Farmer's down the field on one long running play, blocking, blocking, blocking. I believe for a quarterback run. The defense, though, like they took some damage in the defense. Like Aubrey Burks and Garnett Hollis, those guys didn't finish the game. Crandall didn't finish the game. I don't think he played very much, but I think he came off the field. And time may help there too. But if you're looking for solutions, you like to get those guys in, like an Israel Boyce. Dantes Fagan was all right upon second watch there, but Israel Boyce, get some more people in, get maybe like another group of defensive linemen in. Not a lot of snaps in that game. What did we say, 45, I think. So there's not a lot of opportunities, but they got about 100 snaps in the open week. That second line of like young developing players probably wanted to take them for a spin a little bit and just didn't see it. But even if like that's such a small one there, like I just think that you can definitely count that as steps forward instead of like one step forward, one step back. It wasn't one step forward, two steps back. I do think you can at least go two forward, Chris. That felt like it was progressive for sure. But if you're being really analytical here, that second group just didn't give you the pop off of an open week where they're talking big about some players being potential contributors and had the span of a whole second half to play and perform and showcase. That didn't happen, but I don't know. Was that supposed to happen? Was that the plan going in? I highly doubt that too.
Yeah, I think the reason I'm tempering my expectations, because the question is, at what point are we talking about your expectations as a
Well, you're going to
fan?
need depth, though, right? I mean, they're saying that they're going to need depth, especially in the secondary, especially in the defensive line. And if you're expecting this team to go somewhere, thank you for correcting me on that. Like if you're expecting to go somewhere, you're going to need somebody beyond 1 through 11. You're going to need a good group of like in between 12 and 22 to help you out on defense. And just where are those reinforcements right now? That's where I would be tempered a little bit. You didn't see that rise to the surface Saturday.
Yeah, for me, like I'm thinking about when did I'm talking about when did I have my expectations? My expectations preseason were different than my expectations after week 1, were different from my expectations after week 4, are different from now. So I'm going back to my preseason expectations and comparing to what I thought this team should be or could be. And if you told me in the preseason, hey, Garrett Green is running the ball all over the place, still can't really hit a high percentage of his passes. Jahiem White is breaking some big plays. CJ Donaldson is getting the short yardage and the end zone touches and scoring touchdowns. And the offensive line is blocking. I was like, yeah, that's expected. That should happen. That it should be that good. And I'm not sure anything yet on either side of the ball is better than what I expected preseason. And that's concerning. I mean, it's nothing's Because I honestly thought that maybe even what's happening on offense, even what happened in this game, again, that first half was unbelievable. Again, we talked about it, best half of offensive football that we've seen during the Neil Brown era, but still expecting more. High expectations for that side of the ball, kind of medium to low expectations for defense, and it's that's what it is. And I don't know if that is a Big 12 championship challenging team. Although, do you see that ESPN FPI thing I put up this morning? Take a guess
Changing
at
fast.
what their odds are of winning or being in the Big 12 championship, or I think it's winning the Big 12 championship or in the championship game. Let me check. Let me check while you guess.
I've already seen it though, so is that fair?
Oh, now you cheater.
Of course, Chris, I read everything you write. But I mean, that's a dramatic change from 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, of course, yeah, you start 2-0. That's what happens. But like West Virginia, a 11.3% chance of winning the Big 12 conference. Not just making the conference championship game, but winning that Big 12 championship game. 11.3% in a 16-team field. So,
What's the odds to get in?
it does not say. It's got 80% chance of 6 wins, 11% chance of winning the Big 12, and a 6% chance, a 5.9% chance of making the college football playoff.
I think when you look at like the odds to win the Big 12 right now, like I looked at this yesterday. I trust teamkings.com. I don't know what their rhyme or reason is why I like them more, but maybe it's because I've had a bookmark for many years. But I like it. They sort stats by FBS versus FBS. So they do the work for me on that. I like that. I was looking at their odds, and West Virginia has the fourth best odds to win the Big 12. Chris, that means they have one of the two best odds to make the Big 12 title game. And that's all it really takes because if you've got a chance in there, you have got to, what if you're in Dallas, you have a 50-50 chance, which is pretty good odds, right? Um, so to be in that conversation right now where I think they're 11 or 12%, they're one of the four best odds. Um, that's interesting. And the teams above them are Iowa State, Colorado, and Kansas State. They get two of those three coming to them in the next 2 weeks. So a lot changes. A lot's going to change here. Really volatile sport, not even just conference. Let's look around. So just doing your job, this whole 1-0, do your job, win the night kind of a thing. It sounds kind of cliche and coach speak, but it's easy to digest and it compartmentalizes your season into just 7 days while the world is burning around you. You just worry about your thing. You don't worry about anybody else. You'll keep moving up. I don't want to evoke the past, but like there's a precedent in the past where like a whole lot of weird stuff had to happen for West Virginia to end up in a really good situation, and it did happen, and they just kept their blinders on the whole time. That probably is the right way to go about this, rather than trying to observe and report on everything happening in the Big 12 right now.
Here's the second part of the question from GA Mountaineer 15. Let's keep it simple. Is Jahiem White back?
Yeah, I don't know. That looked more like him, but no, I mean, listen, that was a pretty beleaguered defense, and West Virginia just started swinging anvils at him. I guess swinging axes at him. You wouldn't swing an anvil, right? That'd be pretty hard.
Yeah.
Just started swinging the heavy artillery at him. Like that first snap motion and the two tight ends from the wide formation to the line of scrimmage and running at them. That was interesting. All the pulling was really interesting. Who they pulled, where they pulled, that was done with a purpose. They were really trying to tenderize that defense. Can they do that against some other teams? We'll see. I think we're going to get to a question about this, so I don't want to answer it, but I think there's an interesting debate about a really good rushing offense meaning a really good rushing defense. That was not a really good rushing defense. That had not yet been a really good running offense. Productive, but not prolific like it was on Saturday. You start moving big strides in the right direction when you give the ball to White that often, and he produces that consistently. That was a development they had to have. Although, were people really worried about him? I don't know. I just think there's too much electricity there for him to be a guy that's not going to zap one every so often.
Did you think it was interesting that Neil Brown took blame, I guess, for Jahiem White not being quite as productive leading up to this game?
I remember the preseason where he said that they didn't do a good enough job with CJ Donaldson getting him ready for his sophomore year in the encore. And that stuck with me a lot because I don't know how much of last season was Neil Brown's fault for CJ Donaldson. CJ Donaldson called it average. Was it? I guess by his standard, sure. When you think about all the stuff that Donaldson probably went through off the field, never mind the injury and coming back and all that stuff, but like there were certainly outside flirtations with him trying to get him to think about moving somewhere else. I don't think that's much of a secret. Stayed here, kudos to him, kudos to West Virginia, the NIL and all that stuff. But I don't know that I don't know the everything that was stirring in Donaldson's offseason, I don't know that it ever slowed down where he actually got back to where he wanted to go and then took off from there. So they're probably keeping their thumb on top of White as best as they can. And the amount of times they say that he's a great player, he's not a good player, he's a great player. And you're looking at it like, we'll see. Good, yeah, good. Can he be great? We'll see. He's great moments, great games. They see something there and they're on top of him. So it might just be overly protective. It might also be the fact that like you really can't do much if you don't get the ball. And that's a guy who should be touching it close to 20 times a game, whether it's catching it or running it. And like there were chances for him to catch it yesterday, Saturday, that you're just not going to throw, I think, on those situations there in that game. They could have gone back to some stuff that was open. They didn't get to it. So there's a lot left to scratch. Um, how they get him the ball now would be really interesting because the book's on him. People know he can run the ball. Can you flex him out? Can you swing him out? Can you line him up in the slot? Can you throw bubbles to him? We'll see. There's another level to get to there. So when Brown talks about how it's his fault, they haven't really done anything different with him. Frequency is the one thing. What can they do different? Because the frequency seems to be back. I keep my eye on that. Like, what's if he's taking blame for it, that means he's got a plan. He's got a vision. I wonder what the next level, what the next possibilities are for White with that offense.
Yeah, he did. He did mention, hey, we had some passes in our pocket for him for Jahiem White, but because of the way the game went, wasn't necessary. So just a note for next game,
They were there.
if there happens to be a line of some sort, like 1.5 receptions, Jahiem White, just going out there.
Yep. And look, Iowa
Mike,
State's defense has not been great either, so that'll be one to watch.
Mike, it's time for our team ticker question of the week. This one, congratulations, Luke Zoolander 01. I don't know if there's a competition to get the team ticker question of the week, but that is what we're doing here. This question is sponsored by Team Ticker. You can see it over my, what is that? That's my right shoulder. Looks like my left shoulder in the camera here. Team Ticker is a one-of-a-kind sports sign for Mountaineer fans. It's a combination of design and function. Gives you an entertaining, creative way to display your team pride while providing a unique connection to your favorite team. The companion mobile app and the easy hang design will have you up and running in minutes. Even I got this up in about 5 minutes. Got it running. It's the ultimate upgrade to your Mountaineer sports collection. And once you hang it on your wall, all your fellow West Virginia fans will be talking about it. If you're looking for that one eye-catching item to showcase your team pride or gift for that Mountaineer fan, go to teamticker.com, pick up your team ticker today. Use code EARSPORTS, EER Sports, for $50 off. Mike, after 5 games, what are your picks for the biggest surprise, good or bad, on WVU's offense and their defense? I'll let you have first pick.
All right. The biggest surprise in the defense is that this is going to be cherry picking, but it's the big surprise to me. I thought that they nailed the transfer portal again. I thought there was a chance they could nail the transfer portal again. I really believe in Jahiem Joseph, and I think he's been by and large pretty good. I think that what happened Saturday is a good step because I think their best 11 is going to have Garnes and Hollis. You just have to get them right. There's a lot of talent there. But the fact that those two struggled, I mean, really struggled at the start with the speed of the game, with tackling. I don't think it was so much the scheme of the defense. Just these are guys who are supposed to do it. Now, there might have been different things about how they play the ball in the air, which might be a change in this defense too. Whisper, right? But the fact that that didn't happen as fast as I thought or as succinctly as I thought, that there were some speed bumps, a benching, all that surprised me because I really thought those were good college players coming to a situation that needed good college players. Has nothing to do with Beanie Bishop or Anthony Wilson. I just thought that like they had good players in those spots where they needed them, and they needed corners, and that was it for me. I thought that was going to be a big addition there. Kekora Tarnu, we'll see. Jury's out on him, although he played pretty good Saturday when they really needed him in a position he does not play. So that was a good sign there. But just the fact that they fell off, that surprised me. Chris, on the offense, this has been a slow thing. I'm surprised by the value, the usage of the tight ends. Don't roll your eyes. Like Jackson Marco's playing. He's played 5 games now. He's playing on offense. Traylon Davis is really good, and he's like, I know people joke about how he can't catch the ball, and like Neil Brown's always giving him compliments, but like when you watch him, the ball typically goes where he's going. There's not much of a secret there, and he does something good. Cole Taylor has been a better blocker of late. They have something with the tight ends that they're trying to do, and like they have good receivers. They could put 4 on the field a bunch. They always have a tight end there. They've really leaned into this. I didn't know what they were going to do on offense. It's a running offense. They have some receiving talent. You can spread and shred by like widen your formations, having your quarterback run. They really lean into the tight ends, and like maybe I should have known that. I'm the guy who always writes about tight ends, right? But the fact that they only have three really, and they're using three, and the way they're using him in the blocking game, whether it's running or passing, the way they're using him in the receiving game. I'm not even talking about Traylon Davis's reception the other day, but like those guys run routes all the time. Like they run routes. They're not decoys and dummies. They might not just be the first reads, and Green might not be comfortable with Davis or Samarco, I would guess too. Just three guys that are playing, Chris, and they're putting two out there all the time and asking them to do a lot of stuff. That continues to surprise me. I wasn't sure what direction they were going to take. I definitely wasn't sure it was going to be like this with those three involved like they are.
On offense for me, I think it's Nick Malone at right tackle. Like I was pushing the, hey, there's a lot of experience coming back. Obviously, losing Zach Frazier and Doug Nestor is going to hurt, but there's too much talent, too much experience coming back for this to be a negative. But at the same time, I was throwing out the idea of, hey, they brought in this transfer, Xavier Bosley. He might be pushing for starting time. Maybe it's even best if Nick Malone acts as that swing lineman because he's played all five spots. What if he's the sixth guy? Is that better? That was wrong because he's been excellent at right tackle. And if you could just lock down both tackles the way that Malone and Milam have done, that really helps your offense all around. So that was a big surprise that he has just consistently now for several weeks been one of the top linemen, one of the top players on the offensive side of the ball. For defense, I'll take my lumps at linebacker, Mike. I wrote that whole thing about how, hey, there is a world where things go really well. There is a lot of talent in these spots, but there is a world where things go horribly wrong because there is no experience. There's lots of injuries. This might not work. And so far, knock on wood, it's been solid. Are they perfect? No. I mean, they have to figure out some of these, this pass defense. Like they're just not quick enough to handle a lot of these pass defense, but the way they're flying around the field, making tackles, not missing tackles, maybe more importantly, is really making a difference on that second line. Again, it's not holy cow, this is the best unit on the field, but it's hey, I don't have to worry about linebacker. I don't have to think about it. These guys are being very good for some guys who haven't played a ton. So linebacker, Nick Malone for me.
Um, West Virginia's tackles are probably two of the best offensive linemen in the Big 12.
Yeah,
Like
there you go.
that's an accomplishment there. Like if you look at the PFF grades, and like I've talked to some people before games too, and like they really think those tackles are as good of a group as in the Big 12, but also like that Malone's played that well. And if you look at the numbers, like his PFF grade, take it, leave it, whatever you want. That's fine. But like he's also backing that up with all those knockdown numbers, all those like those metrics that West Virginia use. He's been good this year for sure.
Yeah. Well, again, that question comes from Team Ticker. Go to teamticker.com, use EAR Sports, EER Sports for $50 off. And Luke Zoolander, congratulations. Not only do you get the sponsored question of the week, but you get two questions this time around. That's what happens when you ask two questions. So this is a good one because I think this is a conversation maybe we need to have. You are the coach. Tell us how you would use Rodney Gallagher going forward and why.
Well, it's going to depend on the defense now. Like if they're going to keep dropping bodies in the secondary, they're going to need them. Like Garnes didn't play any nickel and any spear, which is problematic. And then neither did Gallagher too. So they were really down. Now, granted, they don't need that in that game because that team is not going to, run sets that require you to play nickel and dime. You're going to need that eventually. So I don't know if you can take him away from defense, and I don't love that because I think his ceiling is much higher on offense this year. Long term, I don't know. We'll see. He's certainly a gifted player, and if you told me tomorrow that he's going to spend the spring and the summer playing corner, I'd probably say he's going to be a pretty good cornerback. Um, I'm going to go back to this, Chris. I wondered if he'd be like a 40-40 guy. Would he run the ball 40 times and catch the ball 40 times? That would be an interesting way to use it to me. That's not happening right now. I'm not sure that he's so far behind when it comes to talent and certainly playing time that he shouldn't be used that way. They want to, like they ran some option stuff. That's in their bag. I'm telling you, that's in their bag. I've seen it. We wrote about it in the preseason. He was part of that package there. They handed the ball to him on the drive starter on their 2-minute drill at the end of the first half. They're trying to get him involved. And maybe Saturday wasn't a good day for that. But I would have him in as like a slash kind of a player. I'm not sure how great and successful he'd be running vertical routes. I try to get him on slants. I try to get him on mesh stuff across the middle where they did hit him on the other day. I mean, the referee gets in his way, but that's a good play where he's crossing the field. He's running away from a defender, which he can do, man or zone. but I would try to mix him up. I would try to have him in running and receiving situations there. He's good with the ball in his hands, and sometimes the handoff is better than the pass. So I would try to find ways to be creative and do that with him, but I'm not sure I'm building an offense around him either. Like the number of touches per game, I don't know. We think 7, something like that seems about right. A couple catches, couple handoffs if you want to. I don't think you can do anything dramatic by putting him in wildcat sets or having him do double passes. Maybe that's in the bag, but I'm not devoting specific packages for that. Maybe he's in a 2 point conversion play for you, something like that. But get him in there, get him involved. He's different when the ball is in his hand. Just like if you watch the screen passes they run, just looks different with him. So I would get him involved, and I would try to use him in multiple capacities on offense. Try to keep him away from defense, but I'm not sure they're going to have that luxury right now.
Yeah, I'm whatever the answer is, and I think for this year, it's offense. Pick one side and stick to it. It's too much. Like it's just too much. I don't think it's fair to him to try to make him split his time between the two sides. And a couple weeks ago they said, hey, he went offense only played offense, and he played well. And then after the game, Neil Brown said, yeah, we're going back to defense with him some next week. And I shook my head. I said, oh, don't do that. I'm looking at your snap counts. He didn't play on defense, even with all of the injuries and guys walking off and guys having to play out of position. Again, a blowout. Maybe if it's closer, he does get pushed back in there. Don't know, but I hope it just stays with one side. If you want to move him to defense, do that in the offseason, make the full push, make the full switch. I don't like the half and half thing. So for me personally, this year, I'm going full wide receiver, slot receiver, try to get him a handful of touches, try to get him some explosive plays. But defense, he hasn't been bad, by the way. Like, I mean, they're comfortable putting him in some key situations on defense, at least earlier in the year. So I think there's a lot of potential there. Does he want to do it? Is he going to stick around if they say, hey, man, we want to make the full conversion to cornerback? What do you think? And that's where you got to kind of weigh those decisions in the offseason and have those discussions. So, but right now, offense, forget about it. Don't play defense the rest of the year.
I think you got to keep him in school if you're ever gonna have him be a multi-side player. You're gonna have to keep him in school. You can't pull him out of school right now. You should kind of start over. And I think you could argue that it's a multi-year process to become a two-way player too. So you can't give him too much at once in the summer because he'll drown. Give him a little bit, he conquers that. Next time around, give him the whole thing because he'll be able to build on the basics. This might not be done yet. Never mind, might not be started yet. Never mind, might not be done yet.
We got multiple questions here, and I'm just going to toss it out there. You can answer it as quickly, as curtly, or as long as you like.
All right.
This one, I'll use Unca Dub's version of the question. Is it my imagination, or does the offense look better with Marchio at QB instead of Green?
I mean, it's probably your imagination, but it looked good for sure. That's a small sample size, and when you see the backup quarterback running the field, and he's as popular as Marchio is, that lifts up everybody. I promise you, that makes a difference. They play harder on that snap. I just that's a pretty much a universal across college sports. If people like the backup quarterback and he comes in, they're going to play hard. They're going to play harder probably too. So that's not a coincidence. But he looked good, and the offense looked good too. So there is some merit to that argument, but also the fact that they're not going to change things very much when he comes in.
Yeah, better than Green? No, I don't think so. Better than what I expected. Better than almost every backup quarterback in the country.
Ooh.
Like, I mean, for just speaking in general here, how many teams out of 134 teams have a backup quarterback that just comes in and it looks like not much has changed other than, hey, he's left-handed and not right-handed? Like a handful, maybe. And I think West Virginia might be one of those teams. I know trust me, I know there's teams that, hey, we got this 5-star QB as a backup, but he hasn't done it yet. And when he's got in, he hasn't looked like a 5-star yet. So I think West Virginia's in a pretty unique and comfortable situation at quarterback right now, which to a question coming from C. Ray Cool, how do you feel about the future of the position now? Because I'll be honest, I think we had the discussion of like, hey, I don't know if one game, one quarter, 2 drives changes our opinion of the next couple years, but There have been discussions of, hey, is this Ryder Burton's team next year? Hey, does West Virginia need to go out and hit the portal because the starting quarterback for next year is not on the roster? And the answer to both of those questions, I feel like might have been more yes than no just a couple weeks ago. Are they now more no than yes?
I don't feel much different. I think the offense is going to be kind of the same. You won't have the speed at quarterback, but both those guys, Burton and Markio, can run. Just based on what I saw Saturday, I don't feel any different about it. I think it's going to be Markio in the lead and Burton chasing, but I think that's Burton's strong suit too. Is that kid's really competitive. He's going to come in and like again, he did not come here to be the backup quarterback, so he's not going to settle for that. That's going to be a feisty offseason competition. But I can't say I feel like it's in better hands now than it was Friday afternoon. I can't say that. I thought it kind of was what it was, and they came in and just again did what they're supposed to do. That was not one person on offense making the difference. That was 11 guys making a difference Saturday.
To Godwin asks, a lot of backups got snaps on Saturday. Which backup may have justified more snaps in the near future based on their performance, and or which backup surprised you the most by their performance?
Tarnu for sure. Just for him, the guy hadn't played defense in a couple of weeks, and he's been a deep safety. And to have him play spear, I would assume he probably practiced a bunch of spear because they didn't know Burks would play. And by the way, Zay Jennings traveled and didn't play. I don't know if that's an injury or if that guy's on a 4 game and they're thinking, nah, TBD. I'm assuming he wasn't ready to play physically, but for Tarnu to go in and play that well, that opened my eyes because there's something there with him. Like he's obviously a talented player, and no matter where he's been around the ball. He's broken up passes, he's blocked punts, he's scooped up fumbles and scored, he's picked off passes and returned them. That's an everlasting trait. Like if you're around the ball, good things happen. He's always around the ball. Chris, you put him at spear, he's near the ball. Like he's not having to go and do a whole bunch of stuff. He's not having to cover people. I mean, might not be fast enough and athletic enough to play corner. He might not be as comfortable with the playbook to play deep safety. You put him near the action, that's a lot less thinking, a lot more reacting. And he looked good at times out there too. It might have been bumpy at first, but I thought he was a good addition to what they were trying to do. And then I couldn't tell you anybody else that was specifically impressive on defense. I know Boyce was back there a bunch. Kinsler got in for I think a series. I don't think Crandall lasted. I'm not sure, but I think he came off and never went back on. And then offensively, small snippets of the offensive line. Like I said, I didn't see anybody that played a whole lot in the back end of that game on offense to do the difference for me.
Oh man, you're gonna leave out Jack Samarco here because it's very specific. Like what he did, and I'm not exaggerating here. 21 snaps, all 21 snaps were run blocking snaps. He was not in for a pass play, and he did very well. That's not something tight ends do. That's not something true freshman tight ends do. Like he is basically being treated as like a sixth lineman as a true freshman, and he's playing well. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, like I'm trying to think, like this is like stunning to me, and then you start. It's almost like one of those movies where you get surprised by the twist ending, and then maybe you watch it a second time, and you're like, oh yeah, it's so obvious now. Look at that, look at that, look at that. Go back to some of the comments from Neil Brown all the way back to the spring, where he's like, hey, this is important for Will Dixon, another tight end. Like this is an important offseason. Needs to figure it out. Young guys are pushing. And it now, in retrospect, it's like, yeah, was he talking about Jackson Marco, the true freshman who just arrived, and he is right back in the mix? I know they're a little bit different players, but he seems like, at least as far as this very specific run blocking role, to be a part of this team. And if you had lined up all the commitments from that class of 2024, just based off of need and the need for development and the role potential, like I would have put Smarco's like 20th out of like the 20 some commitments. Like I would have never guessed that. And he's really been excellent when he got in there, especially on Saturday.
All right. You went to my well. How's the water taste?
Good. Sorry, right? I'm on your corner here. I hope you're okay with that. We got a couple more questions. Jake Kelst here asks, what percentage of Garrett Green's return to the field can be attributed to Toradol and to initial overreaction? He seemed to be in a great deal of pain, holding his arm as if to indicate a fractured clavicle, AC separation, dislocation, or at the very least something that he wasn't going to return quickly from. What say you? Injection, or just a Rod Tidwell moment? Oh,
They drop that in the water bottle now, don't they? So you don't even have to see the needles anymore. So come on, you got to
yeah.
get the speed on that. Allegedly. I think that so I don't know anybody who's on the sideline in a medical capacity, but I had somebody who was at the game and then somebody who's watching the game. I think you told me this too, Chris. But like when you run out the field with that arm pinned to the shoulder like that, there's concern right away that the shoulder is separated, and they don't want you bouncing around and doing stuff because you can do damage just by. I'm motioning here in my office, but like if you're trying to work out a kink or whatever, and you move your arm like that, you could do damage. You could impinge, you could inflame, you could further injure what's going on there. So when they tell him, hey, come off the field, but keep your arm tucked against your torso, that's fine. But he was also jogging, which meant that like he probably knew he wasn't that bad. But if he got that shoulder jam pretty good, that one dude landed on him, and like that was like a shoulder to the ground crunch. Like that probably really hurt. Now that is high potential for a dislocation, a separation, a sprain, a clavicle, something like that. I think that from what I remember, Chris, the training room there is really close to the field. Everything in that stadium is really close to the field. They probably just were like, let's go do this really fast and just clear it and get out of here. They didn't go to a hospital or anything like that. They probably just went and checked. I don't know that there's like a X-ray and MRI on the field there. Like I think you have to go outside to do that. I think in Morgantown you do too. So that was pretty quick. I assume that they just kind of said, hey, let's get off the field where we can take everything off and look at you, and you do that in private and then get you back in the field as soon as you can. What happens in between, hey, you're good, and hey, you're going back in the game? That's stuff they talk about at reunions, Chris. I wouldn't know anything about that. But I would say that they probably gave him some Tylenol and said, hey, six, go spin it, and he did.
Yeah, the way his hand was at it, again, kind of just down by his side, elbow in at a 90-degree angle. And if it's there involuntarily like that, that means that you got what we used to call stingers, which is that little impingement right here, and you're just involuntarily holding it up like that. This looks voluntary, and like you said, that tells me collarbone. That's the clavicle. And then the way when he went and sat from the television angle, they were watching it. One of the trainers came in and was reaching underneath his shoulder pads right to his clavicle, reaching right in there. Because when you break a clavicle,
Good
you
go.
can feel it. Like
Mhm.
it's not something where like you don't really need an X-ray to know if it's a true clavicle break. And to your point, that was like textbook. The play was like a textbook. Hey, this is how this guy got injured. Like hit from behind on the shoulder, full body weight on top of him. We've seen it dozens of times like that. Yeah, that's a separated shoulder. That's a broken collarbone. And um, yeah, so it didn't look good. But again, I was sitting with somebody who was like, yeah, that's clavicle. That's a broken collarbone. And guess West Virginia's lucky that it wasn't because yeah, he came running out Ultimate Warrior style back to the field, ready to go. And then again from the TV views, kind of got stopped by a handful of trainers right on the sideline, like, whoa, 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 whoa. And I thought, oh, they're going to keep him from going in. They kind of just I think Markio finished out that drive and then he was right back into it. And I did not think he was coming back in, especially with it being his throwing shoulder. So,
Yeah. Stinger is probably the right diagnosis there.
yeah. All right, Mike. One more question. Do you want to pick it? I know you alluded to a potential question that we would get to later. Did I ask the question that you wanted me to ask?
A couple people have asked about what's been different about the defense the past couple of
Yeah.
weeks. They
Okay.
changed things. Um, we'll never get an explanation. Um, we won't. We don't talk to Shadon Brown the rest of the year, and I think Shadon Brown would probably tell us if things were going well that what's going on and how he's fixed it. And Jordan Leslie is going to be one of those guys that says that like the coaches weren't doing it right, and they got to put the players in better situations. They're playing the ball much better in the air. Like the ball's not in the air less often. You're still playing the ball at West Virginia, but they're playing the ball a lot better in the air. Some of that is because their drops are better and they're seeing more of the play happen in front of them than having to catch up with the player or relocate their spot and get there and then play. Like if they're playing from the snap on as opposed to resetting and then restarting and then playing, the game's a lot easier. But when the ball's in the air, they're playing better. So now I wonder, and this is a debate our board has, like play the ball versus play the receiver. Has that changed? Like, are they trying to find the ball now? I think that's an interesting observation that others have made. It's not me, but I think that's something you could actually say too. Also, I would say that, and like everything underneath, we said this after the Kansas game and then before the Oklahoma State game, they're not letting anything get over their head, and no one's thrown the ball over their head the past couple of games. Bowman was 1 for 2 on vertical throws for 25 yards, so that's a ball that travels in the air 20 yards, a 25-yard play. That's okay. And then I think the touchdown pass by Rangel was a touchdown, yeah, with the 43-yarder was a short catch and a
Yeah.
run. So that got, and that was the backup defense. So whatever, that happened. It shouldn't happen, but it happened. But nothing is getting over their head anymore. The thing with that, though, is that you played two offenses that are not going to throw the ball over your head. Like Bowman can't, won't, doesn't throw the ball deep. So you could play really deep and then run at them. And if the ball's caught on a slant, mesh, something like that, react and then meet at the ball. And they can do that. It's a lot easier to play defense that way and to make Oklahoma State drive 10, 11, 12, 15 plays because the running game is going to take a step or two back, more than likely. And if you're patient, Bowman's going to throw you one. And he did. Like he puts one in jeopardy about every 20 throws. That's not a good average for a quarterback who's throwing it 40, 50 times a game. So if you're patient and you're alert, you're going to get one. And they did. And to be patient, that's fine. To be alert, you got to have your eyes in the right spots. And it was. So what they've done defensively has worked the past 2 games. That will be a lot more challenging against Iowa State. Certainly against Kansas State. I'm going down the team here in my head. Arizona as well. Like they're going to find out soon whether or not that works. I don't think they will. Keep the same velocity because I think even Brown said after the Kansas game, is that going to work most Saturdays? No. Truth of the matter is it worked on 2 Saturdays. So that's good enough right now. And then you've got a team that has some confidence now. You can ask them to do things a little bit differently. You can ask them to do things like some things they did before they struggle with because of confidence. You can go back a little bit. You can go forward a little bit, but you can't do that without confidence. And they have that right now. They have 2 games of really good results, and you can ask them and reasonably expect them to say, yeah, coach, I can do that. As opposed to, I don't know, coach, it's been tough. Let's see. That's a world of difference right now.
Yeah, I think again, scheme change, you can kind of see some tweaks here. You can see some differences. Coaching changes, again, you noted it first when you're snooping around on suite levels in the elevators that Jordan Leslie was up in the box, which was different. Um, so both of those kind of making a difference. One thing I can tell you that's not different, so we can't, but personnel's the same. Like I know we're going to try new people and we're going to do this and guys are going to get new chances. Like it's still the same guys. Aiden Garnes is still starting and playing a lot of snaps. Jahiem Joseph is still playing a ton of snaps. Now he didn't start the season opener, but he's still playing a high percent. He played a high percentage of snaps in that first game. Still playing a high percentage of snaps now. Dantes Fagan still very much involved. Anthony Wilson only played 25 snaps last game. Got a little banged up there, but still starting. Aubrey Burks a little injured, starting. Garnett Hollis starting. Got in again, got banged up, left early, but was still starting and playing well before that happened. So it's a lot. It's basically the same guys back there. They've tweaked it a little bit of where guys are lining up and who's kind of doing what, but I don't think the personnel is the answer. I think it's a coaching change, scheme change, and coaching, viewpoint change, maybe.
Add them up. That makes a difference.
Yep. All right, Mike. I think that's going to be it for now. Again, the rest of the questions, there's some duplicates. So if we didn't say your name, I apologize. I'll give you a shout out in the written mailbag. And the rest of you, I will answer your questions on the site on Tuesday morning. Mike, what's coming up?
Got Neil Brown, got the coordinators, got players today. We'll do the week 6 questions. I need week 7 answers here. Some new info on West Virginia, like just stuff we saw that you wanted to see or hadn't seen. What does that mean moving forward? And Iowa State. So what do we get here? Like I think people are going to be surprised when they learn about Iowa State that the skill positions on offense are really good, and that defense is not, it's not the defense you're accustomed to.
Okay, sounds good.
Until then, I'm Mike Casazza.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
We'll talk to you then.